It's Wednesday, December 18th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, one guest, but what a guest. Playwright and actor Andy Jones is here. He's got a new book out of 3 plays from his repertoire. We're going to chat about that, his career, connecting with audiences, and if you have questions for him, a memory of a performance, you want to say hi, get in touch. The lines are open. Andy Jones, welcome back to The Signal. How you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
Good. You know, sitting down, getting ready for the holidays and stuff. All that jazz. So December 20th, right? Friday.
December 20th. Yes, they're going to launch the book. It's sort of a little bit of a Christmas event too at the Rooms with myself, and Jeff Panting is going to be with me
doing some of the music, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, and the details. So it's was it 7 to 8 p.m. at the Rooms. So folks. Tickets are $15. You can just Google for the Andy Jones in the Rooms and go to the Rooms site, and they've got an Eventbrite up for it. Like I said, 7 8 p.m. December 20th. If you're curious, and to give the preview, the book, which is here's the magic of radio, Andy. Right there. Actor needs restraint. Monologues, recitations, clown turns, and comedy sketches. Andy Jones. Tell us about it.
Actually, Breakwater asked me if I would be interested in putting some of the shows together, and so I picked 3 of them, basically because they didn't have too many graphics in them. So basically, the 3 one-man shows that I did, the first one's in 1983 and the last one was in 2006. But what I did was I realized, of course, that everything I've written, all these shows are really kind of just a series of sketches strung together, and with a little bit of pretend joining material. So I did list every single sketch that's in it. So each show, the 3 shows, Out of the Bin, An Evening with Uncle Val, and King of Fun, have all the sketches listed at the beginning.
Excellent. And folks, I just realized I was introducing and saying the lines are up, and I didn't put the numbers out. Andy Jones is here. If you want to say hi, I got a question for him, a memory of a performance. 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. You can text us, 709-327-8206. Emails thesignal@cbc.ca. And what Andy and I will do, we'll march through a discussion based around actor needs restraint and a bunch of other things. From your time performing. And the one thing that comes up, because as we're talking about this book, I did a show for Newfoundland Quarterly, so every quarter we do a show, and the most recent issue for the Quarterly is about the Newfoundland Renaissance. Right? So we were talking about it, and something that came up during that show, obviously, was April 1976, Sandra Gwynn's article in Saturday Night, heralding a renaissance for theater and art in Newfoundland during the 60s and 70s. What was it like when that article, for you folks, what was it like when that article came out, when that piece came out? Did you know you were living through such a fantastic creative time that would have just cultural impact for years beyond? Or was it like, oh, okay, this is an interesting take?
No, I don't think we were thinking in those long terms.
No.
We were just having a good time and trying to do a sketch. Comedy was what we were mostly interested in at that time in Codco. And, of course, there were so many other people, Chris Brooks and the Mummers Troupe and Figgy Duff and Sheila's Brush and so many groups. But we were just, we were very lucky that we had, I guess in some ways, there was no infrastructure. So we were able to make it up as we went along. So we kind of invented it in some ways. So that was fun.
That's a bit of freedom there, right?
It is, yeah, it was, yeah.
But as you make it up, right? What were some of the responses back then? Because you make it up as you go. Sometimes there's a right turn, and there can be turns another way. But what was the response from everyone?
Well, I wasn't there at the beginning of Codco. The first show I wasn't there for Cod and Stick, but I have never really kind of ever been involved in anything that quite had that traction with people word of mouth was. We just had to get people to know when the show was on. So, for example, I was thinking in 74 when I did the first show with them, which was Sickness, Death, and Beyond the Grave, we were sold out for 4 nights at the Little Theater, 400 seats. 4,000 people came to see that show. Huh. And, and people snuck in. Young people told me, people who are now not young anymore, but told me that they were in high school and stuff, and they were sneaking funny, and it was really an incredible phenomenon. And it was the first time that lots of things had ever been said about Newfoundland the way we said them.
Yeah.
And I defer to those guys who started without me, but and they really hit quite a note, right?
Yeah. For most folks listening, they already they'll know some of the answer to this. But if you're younger, like I'm 44, right? Like I knew who you were growing up, but I was obviously not around to appreciate when things were just being kind of put out at the time.
Yeah.
What was the cultural space like for Newfoundland? We'll say Newfoundland and Labrador now, but for Newfoundland back then, for like some of the themes that you're trying to hit at?
Well, I don't know that a lot of it had ever been dealt with. One thing we dealt with was the way we were perceived. Like Cod on a Stick, again, I wasn't involved, but the opening of that scene is a guy pretending to be a Newfoundlander and pretending to be, he is a Newfoundlander, but he's acting the way he's supposed to act according to the National Film Board or CBC or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he sort of turns it on his head, and you realize that he's just pretending to do that. And whereas people on the mainland couldn't quite get that, but Newfoundlanders really did get it. And then it showed the real family, what they were really like, and they were fighting among themselves and that kind of thing. And it was very real. We never ever idealized Newfoundlanders. We loved Newfoundland and loved everything about it, and we had all these stories from our parents and stuff like that. But we always showed the dark side of Newfoundland for sure.
Yeah, for me, I've always kind of looked for discussions that I've had around that time, and it was some of it seemed like it was a permission to be, like for a Newfoundlander, of like, hey, we can be all of what we are. Like there's the difference between how the mainland sees folks here, how we really are in this province, warts and all, right? So we can poke fun at ourselves in a smart way that we know, and it's actually taking a proper ribbing, and also with the accents, with the language, with everything else, we can just be ourselves and have our own humor and everything else.
Yeah, I guess it felt like such an odd time because people laughed at you if you said you were a Newfoundlander.
Yeah,
it was so funny. Like it was like I remember going to the mainland. I went to university in Halifax, and then I went to university in Toronto after that. And it was like, gee, you would say you're from Newfoundland, people would laugh, and people thought, why would anyone ever go to Newfoundland? Like, gosh, it's depressing. We have unemployment, bad weather, and like now Newfoundland is like the place. Of course, everyone's coming here. But we knew that then, and we knew that we had so much, and that not that we had were any better than any other part of the country, and there was great survival in every part of Canada in the early days. But we were not perceived that way by other people, and we had to tell that story to ourselves, for sure, to make sure we're proud of ourselves, which most Newfoundlanders were, so that was our job at that time, and we did it, and we realized the richness of that culture and the great stories we had and the great use of language and the great expressions and stuff like that, and we just threw them all at that.
Has it changed? Like when you go to Toronto now, or your experience on the mainland now, how much has that changed from those earlier years?
Huge. Yeah. It's huge. Like I just was in Toronto for 2 weeks, and every time you say it for Newfoundland, like
different feel to it now,
totally
right?
Different. Whereas people would they would laugh and say, "Well, what are you laughing at?" So just the idea of somebody being in Newfoundland was funny.
So for my vintage, right?
Yeah.
I think I was there for the tail end of pre the oil stuff here and everything else, but doing basic training in 99. I remember one of the senior officers told a Newfie joke.
Right, yeah.
And I did not appreciate it because it was also not, it was told to like a different troop that I wasn't in, and put the complaint in. But it was like that, like late 90s, it was still there. Don't hear that now.
No.
Right? I don't hear it now.
No, you don't hear that anymore. And I remember being in Quebec, but they used to put Newfie jokes in the newspapers there.
Yeah.
And I remember we spent some time editing our film there. And gosh, it felt really strange, and I was taking a French course, and I was so, worried about speaking French because I would be the Newfoundlander in the room, right? Yeah,
no, and yes, have been in Quebec as well, and totally, back then, I had that understanding as well.
Yep.
Folks, I'm Adam Walsh. This is The Signal. We've got Andy Jones here in studio today. New book out, Actor Needs Restraint. Monologues, recitations, clown turns, and comedy sketches. If you want to give us a call, say hi, share thoughts of Andy's impact over the years, what he's meant to theatre, comedy, the arts in this province, call us 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. You can text us 709-327-8206. Email thesignal@cbc.ca. Let's see. We'll go to the phones. We've got Rick Mercer on the line. Hi, Rick.
Hello. How are you?
Hi, Rick. How are you?
Goodbye. How are you
Hello,
doing?
Andy. I just wanted to say I did something a little sneaky. I went down to Fred's Records yesterday, and I said, surely you've got Andy's book. And I know it's not on the stand yet, and they hauled a copy out, and they sold it to me. I've been reading it all morning, Andy. It is so funny.
Oh, great,
the Uncle
great.
Val stuff is leaping off the page. It's just a joy to read. I don't want to stay on the line too long because, honestly, if I started talking about how influential Andy is as a monologuist, a comedian, a television performer, I'd still be, on the radio tomorrow. But I want to say one thing about Andy. He was so ridiculously supportive, and still is, of the next generation. So back in 88, 89, I was in a comedy troupe, Corey and Wade's Playhouse. It was myself, Andrew Younghusband, Christine Taylor, Ashley Billard. We did a show, and it was a big success. But by any metric, the thing that meant the most to us, more than John Holmes in the Telegram or a nice note on CBC Radio, was the Codco showed up. And Andy came, Tommy and Greg came, Mary came, Kathy came. That meant so much to us. And then we got to know them a little bit. And when we were working on our second show, we'd kind of hit a roadblock, that terrible second show. And I was talking to Andy, and I said, we were hoping to get to a friend's cabin and work on this show, but it fell through. And Andy said, I've got a place around the bay. You can go there. I mean, imagine offering a place around the bay to a bunch of 17-year-olds. And I was like, I know, I don't think so. I said, and plus, I'd have to borrow Dad's car. I have a car, Andy said. I have a car. You can take my car. And then I was like, I don't know. And he's like, Mary Lynn will put groceries in the trunk of the car for you. So he literally would have dragged us on his back to his place around the bay so we could work on a new comedy show. And that's very much Andy and how supportive he is of the younger generations coming behind him.
Yeah, when I had a feeling you were going to call, Rick, and that was the question I was wondering, right, about the support, because everything I've heard, exactly that, and it's so great to hear you talk about it.
It was so great that,
just one more thing,
it was all justified, all of our faith.
Yeah, I mean, if they end up being duds, I mean, imagine.
No, every one of those people have gone on to do incredible work.
And the other thing Andy mentions, creating the infrastructure. When we wanted to do a comedy show, we walked into the doors of the LSPO Hall, and it was all there.
Yep.
The lights were there, the stage was there, a theater was there, the box office was there. That wasn't there for the Codcos and the Chris Brookses. They built that. And so when Critch had his comedy troupe and wanted to do something, Johnny Harris wanted to do something, this entire infrastructure was in place because of the Andy Joneses. So that can't be underestimated. But again, really funny book, Andy. I'm so happy you did it. It's just the laughs are incredible.
Thank you, Rick, very much. Thanks for saying that.
Thanks for calling, Rick, and happy holidays to you.
You too. Happy holidays.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right, Rick Mercer there.
That was great. Yeah. Oh, that's very nice. It makes you say all that.
Would I see you to offer letting your car to a bunch of teenagers?
I don't know. I've always been out of control my whole life. I don't know what I'm doing.
All right, folks, the lines are open. Sitting around talking with Andy Jones, new book, Actor Needs Restraint, Monologues, Recitations, Clown Turns, Comedy Sketches, 709-722-7111. 1-800-563-8255. Tell us about Actor Needs Restraint.
The title actually comes from the first review I got in Toronto.
That's amazing.
Actor Needs Restraint. And I was like, I know Greg Malone always laughed so much when I used to tell him about that review, right? This is my first one-man show. And so I always thought that it summed up my career.
It's so good that what are the reviews? Actor Needs Restraint. Are you serious?
Yeah. People say stuff. Oh my God. And of course, you always remember your bad reviews.
Yeah.
Your good
reviews. There's so many more critics back then, right? That would be.
Oh my God!
Stuff.
There were real critics. We were scared of the critics.
Yeah, their job was to
really said stuff.
Yeah, they got paid for it.
Bad stuff, man. Yeah.
Charlie Tomlinson's on the line. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, how you doing, Adam? How you doing?
Good.
Hi,
So,
Andy.
so everyone, actor, director, teacher, Charlie Tomlinson, who wrote the introduction to this book. Yeah. What was it like to sit down and write that intro, Charlie?
It strangely moving, strangely made you think about the past a fair amount and about the future. And at the time, of course, Andy and I were working on his latest show. So it kind of made you very aware of how, Andy he's kept working and changed himself and the kind of the work that he's done. It was very much, it was a very reflective but a positive thing. Yeah.
And Charlie, by the way, Charlie worked with me all through this book, and he didn't realize what he was getting involved in. But I said,
I don't think Breakwater realized what they were getting into.
No, I don't think so. I think when they proposed, I think they thought, well, he'll probably have the script in by Friday or maybe next Monday. It was like a year later, and Charlie stayed with me for that whole process, and it took us so long to write all the explanations for what the words were saying on the page.
The explanations are so good in it.
Yeah, I wanted to make it
that picture.
I wanted to make it readable too. So in other words, it's not like a play that you have to work at. You sit down and read it, right?
And you succeeded, right? I mean, in fact, at very St. John's moment, I was waiting for somebody to pick me up this morning, and Joan Sullivan walked by, and she said she just read the book, and that she had a question about all those stage directions in the first one. I said, well, that involved Andy looking at a lot of videos, tapes, thinking about things that happened 30-some years ago.
They're so detailed. Because when I was reading it, I was just the picture. You can really get the full picture, and it's quite the thing, right?
Yeah, I tried.
No,
for
and
sure.
and I was just thinking what I would say. It is so full as a book of things just to dip into and be and laugh out loud. And we all have our favorite lines of Andy's. I think. And I was thinking, what would be my favorite? And among them is from Uncle Val when he says. Uncle Val was saying people in town talk about a cup of tea by itself in the woods. And there's nothing quite like that. And then he says, and I agree, there would be nothing quite like that. I mean, it's like, but that was Mercer you had on just before me, eh?
Yeah. That was Rick. Yeah.
Yeah, and everything he said about Andy as the cheerleader and as the provider of the car and the provisions. I couldn't agree with more.
Well, Charlie, because in your intro you wrote, the ode says, where once they stood. And then you related that to Andy and that generation. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, because I'll say this about Andy, but maybe I include myself in that generation a bit. But
of course.
It allowed people, when I was telling people I was going to write this introduction, and I went and kind of talked to a few people. But in Uncle Val, there's some young theatre types that were off in Toronto going to school or somewhere, right? Went to see Uncle Val, and they felt, I guess the word would be empowered or enfranchised, that they could have a creative life in the theatre of Newfoundland. And I think that is largely down to that group of people that back in the 70s. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, we kind of threw ourselves at it. Yeah. All of us. We're jumping off this cliff, we're holding hands, and we're going to know where we're going to land, but we did it.
Because there was no roadmap.
Exactly.
And I think, but no, it was. I do think that Andy, or Drew, as I like to call him, has. There's one of my favorite lines in the introduction. I think I shouldn't say I have a favorite line. Is that somebody did say, and I just flat out stole it because that's what you do when somebody says something good. Is that cheerleader, mentor, and talent scout? That's who Andy was, is, and remains.
Amazing.
Here in our town for the theatre.
Oh, Charlie, thank you for saying all that nice stuff.
No, but it's like anyway. I should let you go. I'm sure there's lots of people who just wanted to wish you a happy Christmas, and I'm sure there's a book launch is on Friday, right?
Yes.
That's right. Friday at the Rooms, 7 to 8 p.m.
I'll see you there, Charlie.
And also, anybody that looks at the book, do look at the very back of it, where Andy has secreted some illustrations by his own hand, and among whom is like blowing an acting gasket.
Yes.
And I really think that perhaps some description of that from the great man himself today would be good.
That's so good.
It's inspired me in my creative life to frequently try to blow the acting gasket.
And you succeed so well, Charlie.
Well, although no longer as we age out. All right, take care. Adam, it's great that you're doing this. And Andy, have a happy Christmas, my son.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie. Charlie Thomas.
God bless.
There.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Charlie, we jumped in and with me and helped me to put all this together. Like we spent over a year. We were working off and on.
We got some. I'm going to keep working through the phone lines here. Let me see. There's a Johnny Harris on the line.
Oh, right.
Hi, Johnny Harris. How you doing?
Merry Christmas, fellas. How are you?
Hi, John. How are you, John? How are you doing?
I'm good. I think Charlie Thomason just hit the nail on the head. I think he's a cheerleader, mentor, and talent scout. And of course, I owe a great deal to Andy. Andy directed my one-man show, which sort of launched my comedy career. In fact, it was I'd gone to see one of his one-man shows with Sherry White just after I graduated from the theater program at Grenfell in Cornerbrook, and she said to me, you should be doing stuff like that. I thought, my God, I can't do that. But eventually I started doing some writing, and RCA at the LSPU Hall had a little bit of money to produce a new show, and Andy agreed to come on to direct it. And also he did a great deal of work with our sketch troupe, the Dance Party of Newfoundland, and helped us string together a few tours around the country. So, yes, we owe a great deal to him.
I didn't have very much to do, John, in either case. I just sort of stood by while you put it together. But thank you for saying that.
Well, I remember, rehearsals with Andy, we had the fourth floor of the Arts and Cultural Centre, and it was, I'd grown up watching Codco, and all of that gang were heroes to me, and it was just neat to sort of hang out with Andy. We'd be going over a piece of the show and we'd get into the nuts and the bolts of it. And Andy, sometimes there was a big fold-out table. I remember Andy was just sometimes, I can see him fixing his glasses with his middle finger, and he'd lie flat on this table and he'd say to me, "Johnny, what are you trying to say?" But it was great because then we'd get into sort of what's the overall, where was the joke going? What was I trying to say? What was the message of it?
Yeah.
And Andy also, when I try to describe the N factor to people in Toronto, which featured in one of Andy's shows, and the N factor is how in Newfoundland everything's just a little bit different than anywhere else, which you only really come to understand the more time you spend away from there. But I think that's what, people always ask, well, what is it about Newfoundlanders and being comedians and why are they funny? And then you live somewhere else for a while and you realize, we come from a culture of sauciness. Yeah. And it's, not to say one way is any better than the other, but people are just a little bit more deal with each other in a sort of saucy, jovial way that would be taken as, I don't know, it'd be a certain impropriety to it or something, say, up here in Toronto.
Yeah, it's always nice when someone's just a little bit twisted, and I think there's a lot of that goes on out of Newfoundland, and then and how it gets perceived on up along, as we say, can be a bit funny.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah, I think, Andy, sometimes I use the story to try to explain how Newfoundland's a little different. And Andy, I don't know if you want to tell the story, but I told the writers on Still Standing, they love this story about when your dad answered the phone one time and it was a wrong number. Do you know the story I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Well, Andy, I think you should tell that story. I don't want to take up all your time, fellas.
Dad answered the phone, and the guy said, "Is Jerry there?" And Dad said, "Oh," he said, "I'm sorry, you got the wrong number." The guy said, "Yeah, well, we're all over here waiting for our checks." Yeah, well, Dad said, "Oh, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm sorry."
It sums up so much somehow. I don't know. It's great, though.
Yeah.
Johnny Harris, thanks so much. I appreciate the call, and happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Okay, Merry Christmas, guys. Hopefully we'll see you over the break.
Okay, thank you for those kind words.
John Harris, of course, of CBC's Still Standing, among other things. Oh gosh, the line, Andy, the call sheet keeps growing, buddy. So we're going to keep plowing through. We've got Susan Batcher on the line from St. John's. Hi.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm calling because I have been an Andy Jones groupie for a very long time.
Oh, my God.
I'm a vintage person, so I was around in the 70s and 80s, and just really got to see the beginning of everything. But one of my, it's sort of a comment and then a question is, I saw Rare Birds, and I loved that movie. I loved the book, and there was a couple of big name people in that movie that in theory were supposed to attract a big audience. But boy, I got to say, Andy, like your sense of timing and your sort of very wry wit. It took that away from me. Like, I'm kind of going, where's the Academy Award? Come on. Like, and I think, so it's amazing. And I think I had sort of a question. It's like, where does that come from? And I think that kind of rides on Johnny's comment. Is like, is it natural? Did it come from your family? Did you go to acting school? Like...
No, I didn't go to acting school, which I'm constantly referring to the fact that I can't do things because I never went to theater school. But no, I don't know. Like, my mother, I got to say, was the funniest person I've ever met. But she was a kitchen comedian. I always say, my mother, for one thing, was agoraphobic, so she didn't go out. She didn't. After my sister was born, she never went out again. I mean, she went occasionally. She would get to mass. My father would drop her off and then pick her up just after the consecration and take her home, and that's all she did. And so but people came to visit her, and she was the funniest person. And I can remember when we were young, if people came from the mainland to visit us or whatever, the first thing we did, bring them to meet Mom. And I didn't know what she was going to say, but guaranteed she made people drop down on the floor with laughter. And my father also had a great sense of humor, was more kind of a wry sense of humor. So that we had that, and it's like so many Newfoundland families, like being able to tell a good story was always highly valued.
Yeah. Truly. I know my family, we used to call it debating. It was actually more like arguing around the dinner table and anything, world politics, the guy next door. And then I joined the debating team when I went to university, and I was actually bored. Like, I'm going, come on, boys. Like, I've had better debates around my supper table than I have here at this, award-winning debating club. But it is definitely an interesting part of the culture. But I've really enjoyed your career. I'm looking forward to getting your book down at Fred's. And thank you for everything.
Thank you, Susan, for calling.
Thanks, Susan. Merry Christmas. Okay. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Now. Bye-bye.
All right, Susan calling from St. John's, and I had the DVD of Rare Birds back when I used to still have DVDs in my 20s. It's such an enjoyable, thoroughly enjoyable movie. And
that was a great script. Ed Rich's script. I've done two things that Ed's written now, and I like saying Ed's words. He really can write. Yeah,
Ed's
got
a line about you mentioned something to William Hurt, I think, in the movie about something the premier, and it will never leave. I can't say it on the radio, but it will never ever leave my brain because that was funny. It struck me. We've got actor, comedian, writer, director Mary Walsh on the line. Hi, Mary.
Hi, how are
Mary.
you?
Hi, Mary. How are you?
Hi, Andy.
Nice of you to call.
I'm out here in beautiful Corner Brook.
Oh my God.
On the West Coast. Yeah.
Mary, I was just wondering what's it been like working with Andy? Because you still do work together.
She loved every minute of it. Every minute.
Oh, no, I can't answer that question. No. Of course, Andy was always, like, I was listening to Johnny, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because when we first went on the road, I don't know when it was, with the Newfoundland Traveling Theatre Company, like, Andy already had material. Like, I was listening to Andy say that people are funny. Like, my mother, everybody in my family is much funnier than I am, and really they didn't feed you or let you sleep inside unless you were somewhat funny, you know what I mean? So you had to be, but Andy actually had material like people on Beyond the Fringe would have, like, hello, Mrs. Pritchard, Alfred Stead. Oh, yes, it was awful. Felt thousands of feet to be fit in the swirling tide below. And it was just so impressive. I'd never even imagined that thing. I think he and Greg Malone used to, when they weren't playing the Pope and Cardinals, they used to write material together. I'm not sure if I'm right about that, Andy, but I remember just being so impressed and moved by that, by that notion. It opened a door for me that saw comedy as being, just a viable way you could go down, not just something to do around the supper table, not just be really strangely, sarcastically, and meanly mean to your brother. That there would be some, real, So I just remember that I was just young, and Andy was young, and I was so moved by that.
Yeah, and we also, because myself and Greg and everyone of that generation listened to that album called Beyond the Fringe, and that really influenced us through our whole lives, I think. And we made up our own sketches, but we also realized that there was so much comedy and humor in Newfoundland, and we were able to take those same ideas and put Newfoundlanders in the sketches, and that made a huge difference to us for the rest of our lives, basically.
What's the most recent work you've both done together? Is it The Mrs. Downstairs?
Yes, I think so, Mary.
Oh, yes. Oh, that was great. Dave Sullivan, who plays John in The Mrs. Downstairs, he worked with Andy in the same with Johnny in Newfoundland Dance Party. So he was a huge, huge fan of Andy's, and it meant so much to him for Andy to come on and play his father. And then I had some. Off-screen love scenes with Andy. Those were great. But
good.
We had a bit of a mishap at one point, but that's all right. And no, it was wonderful. And I always enjoy working with Andy because he always brings so much to the table. Now, Andy and I fought like cats and dogs.
What?
I suppose that in Codco. I was in Rare Birds too, by the way, but just for a minute. I enjoyed that. But I didn't get to see Andy that day. I only got to see William Hurt, who was quite crazy. But Andy and I used to fight a lot. Because I really like, this is being honest, I really thought Andy's ideas were really great, but I didn't really want them to be really great and greater than mine, so I ferociously fought my corner, so that my idea, you know what I mean, even though in many ways I felt, no, I think that is funnier, so that was disappointing, but it made for a lively life event.
It did, yeah. Well, we did good stuff together, Mary, as you did with everybody. As you're continuing to do, of course. You're continuing to do such great stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and you too, Andy. My God, that show that you just did, I never felt as incapable of talking to anyone or staying in the theater or doing anything as I did when your latest show, Dad. Don't forget Dad. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, you are continuing to do great work, and I'm continuing to be inspired by you. Oh, and I can't wait, because Out of the Bin was my favorite one-person show ever in the history of the world. I love that show so much. So I can't wait to get the book, because it's in there, right?
It's in there, yeah.
Well,
thank you, Mary.
I might do it myself.
What's that?
I might just do it.
You should do it. Why not?
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks for saying all that lovely stuff about me.
All true, Andy. All true.
Mary, thanks so much for calling, and
thank you.
Happy holidays.
Take care,
Nice to hear from you.
Mary.
Happy holidays to you guys, too.
We'll see you around, Mary. Yeah, bye-bye.
Mary Walsh there. The great Mary Walsh, with some pretty nice words for you there.
Yeah, Mary. She's very complimentary there. Thank God. We did have a few fights. But that was Codco. We really, when we were getting along, we were at our best, and we came up with our best material. But man, we did ever fight. We fought.
Because when you have really passionate people who are creative and are trying to push forward a vision of creativity, of course there's going to be. Yeah. And I think that's Now, depending how bad it got, but like it sounds like there's also healthiness in that too, right?
Well, we were very young too, right? And we were like, a what's the kind of family that doesn't? What do you call that family?
Dysfunctional family.
Dysfunctional family, for sure. And we weren't very good boundaries, and we did everything wrong except when we clicked.
Yeah.
We wrote some very good material, and some stuff that wasn't great, but we did a couple of really good. Well, lots of got good stuff, I think, over those years. Thank God.
Man, well, the fact that people still talk about like the cultural impact of it, like decades later, it just shows like how like when it hit, gosh, did it ever?
Yeah, and same with Wonderful Grand Band. And Johnny Harris was on there earlier. I remember him telling me that he was very influenced by that as a young boy. Right, he used to do Nanny Hines. Right?
Yeah, of course. We've got Ann Walsh on the line. Hi, Ann.
Oh my God.
Hi.
Hi, Ann. How are you?
I'm good.
This is my cousin Ann Walsh.
We're actually, I knew when I was young that Andy was my cousin, but my father's family didn't really connect with each other. So it's only the past few years I've got to know Andy a bit, and what a treasure. I'm so proud of him and so proud to tell people that I'm related to him. I don't know if people know he's got the Order of Canada and the Order of Newfoundland. And
oh, yeah.
I just love spending every minute I can with him, because the stories he tells me about my grandfather and my grandmother. My grandfather was Sir Albert Walsh, and Andy knew him, but he passed before any of us were born. So I don't know him at all. And I knew my grandmother a bit. And I've lived in Canada for the last 42 years and just moved back. So I'm really getting to know Andy and his family, and I feel honored to be adopted by them.
Oh, so great to meet you. And also, I was a guy who listened to the stories, luckily, so I do have a few stories here and there.
Oh, I could listen to you for days. I mean, there's never enough stories. We're always sending messages back and forth. And I just wanted to let him know and everyone know how proud Newfoundlanders are of him.
Thank you,
Canadians, too. The people who know you are just so proud that you're a Newfoundland legend.
Oh, my God. Thank you.
Don't forget it. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you
all right,
for letting
me.
I'm not a celebrity, so I'll let you go. Make room for all the celebrities. Love you, Andy.
We'll see you.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Thanks,
Walsh.
Ann.
Good name, Adam Walsh.
Not a bad name, man. I don't think we're related, but you never know if it's Newfoundland, so,
Yeah, exactly. You're related somewhere along the way.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, Ann, so much. Love you.
All right, folks, we're steadily working through the call list here. I'll put the numbers out again. So, Andy Jones is in here, and we're talking about his new book, Actor Needs Restraint, which the name of that's from his first review of one of his one-man shows. Actor Needs Restraint: Monologues, Recitations, Clown Turns to Comedy Sketches. If you want to join the discussion, if you've got a memory of it from Andy's work or just a connection to his material or a question for him, 709-722-7111. 1-800-563-8255. You can text 709-327-8206. Emails thesignal@cbc.ca. And I'll say again, too, we mentioned this earlier in the show, but the launch is this Friday, December 20th, at the Rooms. I believe it's 7 to 8 p.m., and you can go to the Room site if you want some ticket information there. Peg Norman is on the line. Hi, Peg.
Hi, Peg.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm grand. I just tuned into the show about 10 minutes ago, and I heard Johnny Harris on, and he referenced the N factor, and it just made me laugh hilariously, because there are so many recent experiences that I've had that factor is completely applicable. But I just wanted to say, I've had the great fortune to have been in the orbit of Andy Jones for close on 40 years, I guess now.
That's right.
Excuse me. And what a pleasure it is to know you, and what a talent you are, and what a fantastic person you are. And the show that you did, I mean, Mary summed it up by, the show that you did about Louis was as moving as any piece of theater I've ever seen in my life. And just want to thank you again for that.
Thank you, and thank you for saying those things. I'm back at you for, I've known you for so many years, and you're such a supportive person, and you're just a great person. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, love you guys completely. And just remind people if they're looking to pick up your book, we have copies of it downtown at the Travel Bug and the Bee's Knees, and I can't recommend a better Christmas gift for anybody to give to somebody who they love.
Great. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that plug.
Thank you. Thanks, Andy. And I think it would be a brilliant idea to see Mary do your show.
Yeah. She'll probably do that. Oh, God, you know what she's like. My God. She'll claim she wrote it, of course, right?
Oh, undoubtedly. She'll probably edit it for sure. All right, great. Thank you, and the best of the holidays to Ali.
Thank you so much for calling, Peg.
Happy holidays.
Thanks.
Peg Dorman
Bye-bye.
there. Oh, that's funny. Do you want to read something for me?
I'll just read a little bit of Uncle Val, I guess.
Yeah. Well, tell folks for the younger audience. Tell folks who Uncle Val is.
Well, Uncle Val was a character that I wrote because just totally came off the top of my head after I met Francis Colbert.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Francis has died in the 80s, but he was a great reciter. He made up his own recitations in that old, that old recitation style, and he was a great performer. He was a very, very quiet guy, and I remember meeting him first, thinking, my God, this guy, they won't even hear him on stage. But when he got on stage, he came alive and really gave it. And he has got a great piece called The Ballad of Job's Cove Rock, which I love seeing him tell. And he also did, like all those old Newfoundland, like the lobster salad and all those Newfoundland recitations that everyone kind of did. And so I started to imitate him, and just off the top of my head, because I loved the way he spoke and things he'd say to me. I just found so funny. And then he eventually, we became good friends. He stayed with me in St. John's when he came in. And in fact, he's in Faustus Bidgood, the feature film he made. He's one of the revolutionaries. And so I got this character, and then I started to write the very first Uncle Val, which is based on Francis and the kind of dry wit that Francis had. And then I wrote that, and then I wrote more and more. And then CBC actually, Bill Squires from CBC called me up and said, would I do them for, to be on the air?
Cool.
So I said, yeah, I would love it. And then Basic Black on National got them, and I did about 15 for them. And anyway, so Uncle Val is this guy. I placed him as an outport Newfoundlander who was forced to live in St. John's and in the suburbs of St. John's, because, of course, I couldn't write anything about outport Newfoundland because I didn't know anything about it. But I knew all about suburban St. John's. So I got to write all about my childhood and growing up in suburban St. John's from his eyes and through not through Francis's eyes. But although I don't think I ever told Francis that Uncle Val was based on him. Maybe I did, but I remember doing Uncle Val in the same bill with him, but he didn't even notice. I don't think. Maybe I wasn't that close to him in terms of my accent and everything. But anyway, he was from Job's Cove in Conception Bay. Fabulous guy. But anyway, and he did it, and I always do the accent. I try to do that accent. That as best I can, right? And he talks about how difficult he finds his he doesn't like his son-in-law very much, Bernard. His daughter Margaret is there, and they have 2 children, which he finds very funny St. John's children.
What is it, Kimmy and Jimmy? Is it the kids?
Jimmy and Kimmy, the kids say. And he says, children are funny in St. John's. Here, they learn by asking questions. Now, in my day, you did not ask questions. I mean, you had questions inside you, but you had to sit around a kitchen till someone accidentally expelled an answer, which you then joined to a question, jigsaw style. Sometimes in the old days, there'd be 3 or 4 youngsters sitting on the daybed, and someone would let fly with a piece of information. You could almost hear the wheels turning, and their little eyes would glow with enlightenment. So, they'd think, that's how Elizabeth come to be living at the Bottles. Often that was how Elizabeth herself found out. And in those days, children ran messages. That was their job. And in return, they were allowed to sleep indoors.
Andy Jones, everyone. We've got another call that I'm going to go to in a second. So I haven't read that a couple of days ago, reading through the book.
Yeah.
Thank you for reading it, because it's it's great on the written side of it to read. It works and is funny, but then just to hear a section of it and then think of you doing this on stage, fantastic.
Yeah, I love that character, and I could write lots. He can just talk about anything pretty well in the whole
which
world.
is any observation, right?
Yeah. It's fun. Yeah.
We've got Simon on the line from St. John's. Hi, Simon.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Hi,
How you doing?
Simon.
How are you, Andy?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm glad to know that you got a new book out.
Yes, it's great. I'm so glad too. I'm so glad they did it. Yeah.
You get that at Fred's, yeah?
It's in print. You can buy it at the store.
Yeah, so I think Rick said earlier Fred should have it. And
Fred's
Peg
have
was
it,
mentioned
and
downtown.
Travel Bug's got it. Bees Knees got it.
And I'm sure like all the bookstores, regular bookstores have it too. I'm assuming.
I think-
like if Breakwater's publishing it. So
Yep.
I had a quick question for you, Andy. Where did Frank Talk come from? Like
Frank Arson Puffin.
Yeah.
That was I don't know where it exactly came. We first did that at Bridget's. At Bridget's, it's now the Peter Easton pub.
Yep.
And upstairs, Janet Kelly had a cabaret upstairs, and we got to do.
Okay.
We did 2 complete shows up there, bits and pieces of Codco, and that character came out of it, and I couldn't think of the name, but like I thought. The kind of a guy. I like that character. He's so full of himself. Arson Puffin seemed like a perfect name for him, and also he has no personality of his own. Like whoever is on this show, he agrees with. You know what I mean? Like he's just like a complete. He's just a marshmallow of a personality, right? And then the CBC gave me that great hair thing that I had for him and the red jacket he always wore. So that was one of my favorite characters. He gets to interview, like he interviews Death. Greg Malone plays Death, and Death comes on. That's a really good show. Yeah.
And like before the camera rolls, those scenes before the camera rolls.
Yeah.
You know. So good.
Yeah. No, he was
So
good.
good.
Yeah. That was a fun character.
I just wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas and let another caller call, and I'll probably talk to you over Christmas.
Thank you, Simon, very much for calling.
Thanks, Simon.
All right, Andy.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bye.
All right, Simon Hiscock there calling from St. John's. We're getting down to the show, folks. That said, if there's still time if you want to join the discussion with Andy Jones, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255, texts 709-327-8206, emails thesignal@cbc.ca. Developing a character like Uncle Val, it gives such a great freedom. It seems to me to give such a great freedom to poke fun at stuff that maybe if you're like to create a whole other person to be able then to poke fun at something. And in this case, for like suburban St. John's.
Yeah. He was able to talk about anything, really. Yeah. I did lots of political stuff, Peckford and stuff like that in those days, and I was able to. He whatever. I guess I get it from Francis too. That kind of, he's sort of puzzled by the way the world is.
Yeah.
That's his thing, right? And Francis was very good at that. And,
everything from politics to family dynamics to like there's a bit. I think there's one bit to he'd like. Ode to Tea by Uncle Val.
Ode to Tea, yeah. He talks about being an old person in St. John's too, which I like. I'll do that for years. Like, he says, talking about being a senior citizen and having to prove you're alive, which is a thing that you have to do apparently occasionally. They say, like, are you sure someone's not collecting your check for you? He said, it's really easy being, all you got to do is, prove you're alive, and much easier than being a young person where you got to ride a skateboard or drive your friends to the edge of the wharf in a truck and yell, the brakes are gone, or other such life-affirming activities. No more of them good times required. No, it's just no more dancing till dawn or falling in love. Just the easy life of the St. John Senior. Like, take last winter, for example. Now, that was a senior's delight. especially since we accidentally got the weather that was meant for Jupiter or some other planet. I swear to God, if there were Senior Olympics, St. John's would be an event. And the wind, oh my God, the wind. When you see them wispy old women being blown down Garrison Hill, you wonder there's not a special brigade struck for gaffing them out of the harbour. Now there's an Olympic event right there. Bring your own pike pole and peavey. Then, of course, there's the 100-yard dash to the Basilica in a sleet storm. It'll be good for that new young runner. What's his name? Ben Johnson. That was a long time ago.
Oh, that's such a good reference.
And the dogs, oh my God, the dogs have the key to the city of St. John's. I mean, you meet dogs, walking downtown. So, hello, Rex. Hello, Spot. Morning, Uncle Val. You're promenading, are you, boys? Carry on. And there's absolutely no sidewalk clearing. So if you can open your front door after a snowstorm, you got to brazen it out in the middle of the road with the dogs. It's like running with the bulls at Pamplona. Tourists would pay to see that.
It's so good. And, the snow clearing bit holds up.
It does, yeah. Unfortunately, all those things.
When I'm thinking of people's complaints, just the ongoing discussion in around St. John's of snow clearing over the years. So for writing something like Uncle Val or other characters, your inputs for creative and it's just kind of everything on you're out and about for a walk, taking it all in, from, like you said, politics in Peckford to snow clearing to dogs in St. John's, it's just whatever you notice. But then to kind of put it there as an outsider's perspective just makes it really funny.
Yeah. He's got. Again, it's his sort of wry humor, I think, which again I think I really to get from Francis Colbert. Like I keep saying it.
It's like confusion around stuff, right?
Yeah.
We've got Gerard's on the line from Fairyland. Hi, Gerard.
Hello, Gerard.
Doing?
Good. How you doing?
Andy. So Andy was our grade 10 high school teacher in Baltimore, right. Baltimore High School, Fairyland, 1972.
That's right. 1971, 72. I was there. Yes, right, Gerard. Yeah.
All right. What a riot. What a hilarious time we had.
We had a great time.
Andy gave us the freedom to do anything in class.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
So freedom to do anything. What did you learn from him, Gerard?
I think it was literature and English combined. I'm not sure.
It was, yeah.
What we learned, well, first of all, he read Catcher in the Rye to us.
Oh, that's right. Catcher in the Rye.
I mean, as an adolescent, that was an eye-opener. And
I got in trouble for that.
We had a few comedians in class, so Andy encouraged us to write a skit. And so we did. We did a parody or a takeoff from Get Smart, the TV show.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Don Adams, what's his name? Anyhow, we got me, Curry Claw, Kenny Crew, Derm, Pat Rossiter, and Gussie. And we wrote the show, we wrote the skit, put it off in class, and it was wild. Curry was the star, of course,
sure, yeah.
And went over well. So we did it for the whole school in the auditorium or in the gym on stage. And charged 10 cents admission. We raised their money. But anyhow, what a time. Anyhow, Andy, that's great. I look forward to reading your book.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I had a great year. That was the most incredible year that year I spent in Fairyland teaching. I never taught again, but it was great. I had more fun that year. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Gerard, we're coming up to the news here now, so we got to run. But I just want to say thanks so much for the call and that memory of Andy teaching. I appreciate it.
Thank you for calling, Gerard.
Tommy Sexton was the funniest man alive.
At that time.
Yeah.
At the time, yeah.
Thanks, Gerard. Cheers.
Take care, Gerard. Great talking to you.
Right.
Take care.
Andy, thanks so much for this. We got under a minute left, so
okay.
I will say remind folks for your new book, right? Actor Needs Restraint: Monologues, Recitations, Clown Turns, and Comedy Sketches.
Yeah.
The launch is at the Rooms on Friday, correct?
Friday at 7:00. Yeah.
7:00 for 1 hour, and there's music too, right? Jeff Panting.
Jeff Panting is with me, and he's going to do a little concert. We're going to try to keep a Christmas theme as much as we can. So we're
all right,
fulfilling that too.
Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much, Adam, for having me.
That's it, folks, for today's show. Tomorrow, a completely different conversation. Let's talk Churchill Falls and the MOU. I've got just a guest for that conversation tomorrow. NL Hydro President and CEO Jennifer Williams. What questions would you like me to ask Jennifer Williams about the Churchill Falls MOU? Email me, thesignal@cbc.ca. Thanks, folks.